Don't forget, like basketball, Tractor Supply knows that a winning season takes practice, teamwork, and a can-do attitude. It's Bracket Challenge season, and the Fox Sports Radio Bracket Challenge is live right now. So if you're the smartest person in the room, be sure to complete your bracket at foxsportsradio.com right now. The winning bracket, Fox Sports Radio Bracket Challenge, will win a $2,500 gift card to Tractor Supply, one of the coolest stores around, and a perfect bracket will win you $1 million. Fill out your bracket now, and until Thursday morning before the games begin, visit foxsportsradio.com to register, get rules, and fill out your bracket. It's all sponsored by Tractor Supply for life out here. There's been a lot of chatter that the Phoenix pro basketball team is considering handing the guillotine to their head coach, Mike Budenholzer, who had gotten it done in Milwaukee a couple years ago and has been relatively successful as a head coach in the different places that he's been. He's a journeyman head coach, and that he's going to get the old guillotine as a way to please KD and Devin Booker, who are said to be rumbling and stumbling. Now, despite the very high expectations, the anticipation with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant that the Suns were going to reign supreme over the NBA, well, obviously that hasn't happened. They are not only a basketball team, they suck. Man, do they suck. It's just a miserable season. So let us discuss the question with all the buzz that the Suns could fire Mike Budenholzer, their coach, in the offseason to appease Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Is this a yes, no, or maybe so situation? So I have Medallion, Siegel, and Honorary Mayor. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a cactus, and we're going to sit on the cactus, which is more enjoyable than watching the Phoenix Suns play basketball. So the answer, number one. I said number one. Number one. So the answer is maybe so. Now, my answer is no. But the real answer, we deal in the real world, not the fake world. We do the real heavy lifting here in overnight sports radio. And in the real world, where I talk in, the answer is maybe so. It should be no. Mike Budenholzer is not the issue. Is he the greatest coach on God's green earth? No. Is he the worst coach? No. He's all right. He's a serviceable head coach in the NBA. He's not the reason the Suns blow chunks. That's not why. And I understand. Coaches are like disposable razors, easily replaceable. Easily replaceable. I get that. Nevertheless, the Phoenix Suns have made it a regular occurrence to get rid of coach. It is a revolving door situation, and they've had instability at ownership. They've kept getting rid of coaches. But you certainly don't get rid of a coach if the reporting is accurate. They're saying, well, Slim Reaper's not happy. Whoop-de-damn-do, okay? If you do that, if you're getting rid of the coach to make Kevin Durant happy, you might as well keep the coach, because Kevin Durant, if you look at his resume as a great player in the NBA, he also wears this gold chain. And on that gold chain, the very end of that gold chain, wrapped around his neck there, you have the medallion. And on that medallion is a piece of kryptonite. And his kryptonite is the coach. If you go through the coaches that Kevin Durant has played for over the recent stretch of his career, we got Steve Nash on there, Monty Williams, Mike Budenholzer, and the beat goes on and on and on and on. And KD always gets a mulligan. He always escapes the blame. It's like, well, it's not his fault. It's this guy's fault. But the finger of blame goes to the coach, but yet the common denominator in all of those situations is Kevin Durant, Mr. All-Everything and all that. And the Suns have this, from my perspective, having watched a few of the Suns games this year, they have this highly contagious situation, venomous. It's a venomous situation. It's an infectious disease. It is, my diagnosis, the Suns are suffering from IDGAF. I don't give a F. Now, it doesn't matter whether you are a pro bouncy ball player, whether you're a talk show host, whether you're a trash man, a security guard. If you suffer from this contagious disease at whatever you do in life, whatever your life's work is, and you suffer from I don't give an F, you're going to be bad at your job. That's just the reality of the situation. And listen, I worked with a lot of people over the years in this business that just don't put the work in, and it shows. And in pro bouncy ball, there are things there that really, really make you look just horrific if you have the disease of I don't give an F. Yeah, it's not good, right? And you look at the core of the Suns, the superstars who are all making big-time money. They've made big-time money for a long time. They don't do a lot of those hustle plays. They don't draw a lot of charges. There's not a lot of deflections on defense because that takes effort. And if you have I don't give an F, you don't do a lot of that. They don't recover a lot of loose balls because, again, that's an effort play. So you do the bare minimum, and you just look terrible. And it's those little things within the margins that separate you from being good and reaching your full level of ability and not reaching your full level of ability. And last I checked, I might be wrong on this. I don't believe this is AAU ball. No coach is going to be able to motivate you at the professional level. It's not rah-rah stuff. That's not how it works. If you don't have the inner fire, because, again, you're suffering from GAF, almost said it, then you got problems. And it doesn't matter. All right, now, page 2. So we have grumbling out of Big D. Did you see this? P.J. Washington, that's a pro bouncy ball player. P.J. Washington says that the Mavericks players are sick and tired. They're sick and tired of the Maverick fan base chanting, "Fire Nico! Fire Nico!" Just like that. It's been nonstop since, and it wasn't a trade. The Mavericks just decided to hand Luka Doncic to the Lakers and said, "Here, you're going to have him." And so ever since then, it's been a constant undercurrent of Fire Nico, home and road. And so finally, P.J. Washington snapped. He confronted someone, says tired, sick and tired. The whole team is of this. So, question for the esteemed panel. Do you have empathy for the plight of P.J. Washington and the Dallas Mavericks players who are complaining about the constant soundtrack of their season being Fire Nico? Do you have empathy? So I'll go first. I'm shaking my head no. I do not have any empathy here. We're talking about high crimes and misdemeanors here. This is actually a felony. This is a felony. It's not a misdemeanor. It's a felony. And it is an absolute dereliction of duties. And it is completely justified by the Dallas Mavericks supporters. And if it didn't happen, that would be a problem. Now, in the big picture, if you look around here, it's actually a good thing. I'll explain why in a second. But what happened with Nico Harrison is what I call the seagull approach. Now, what is the seagull approach? The seagull approach is Nico Harrison swooped in and actually made things worse. Now, a lot of bosses do that. I've had some over the years that have done the same thing. They make a situation that is not great, and they come in there with their wisdom and somehow F it up even more. And that's what Nico Harrison did. He also allowed the ownership signed off on it. So it's on multiple levels. No, say Nico Harrison traded him, but you don't trade your franchise player without ownership saying, okay, seems like a good idea. Why not? I still believe some of the conspiracy stuff will come out, whether it was the league office for television, whether it was the ownership of the Mavericks trying to sandbag the franchise to move to Vegas. I tend to believe that some of that stuff is true. It'll come out at some point. Somebody will write a book. It'll all come out down the line. But the Maverick players are caught in the crossfire. It's collateral damage from the seagull approach of Nico Harrison and the ownership there. But it's actually good in the big picture, and here's why. Let me make my elevator pitch why it's good. Having worked around the sports game and talked to enough people in the business over the years, the fact that the Maverick fan base is up in arms and they've got their pitchforks and their torches out, and they're doing mock funerals and the whole thing. That is a good thing because it's a passion play, and you want that because you care. It matters, right? You're in Dallas listening to me right now, and you're hurt by the fact the team's going to suck for the next 10 years of your life because of this trade. And not a giveaway, not a trade. And so you're bothered by that. It means something to you. And the moment that becomes a bigger problem is when people stop caring. And that's when the dreaded A word takes over, apathy. That is the death of professional sports, apathy. People don't care. And when apathy sets in, you might as well bring back Dick Motta, who I think is still alive, by the way. He's got to be in his 90s. He's got to be in his 90s. Dick Motta, who's coached. I was like a teenager covering the NBA, and Dick Motta was coaching in the NBA, and he was really effing old. And now I'm getting old. So he's got to be old. And bring back like Popeye Jones and Lucius Harris and some of those great iconic Maverick players of the 90s and bring them back. All right, now, final point. So we had a viral moment at the Knicks game at Madison Square Garden, Midtown Manhattan. Now, I happened to be watching this game because it was the only game in the early television window, and I like to have a game on. I couldn't find a baseball game. Not a lot of spring training TV broadcasts this year, and, of course, the regular season starting in a couple hours from now in Tokyo. So I was watching the Knicks and the Heat, and I was settling in, and I saw our friend of the show, Kenny Albert, the fill-in play-by-play guy of the Knicks. So I was happy to see Kenny Albert. And then I saw Walt Clyde Frazier. And Walt Frazier I was watching the MSG feed, and Walt Frazier had this ridiculous St. Paddy's Day outfit on. Nobody dresses as debonair as Walt Frazier. So it was great. It was great seeing that. And so I'm watching the game, and early on, the Heat played pretty well in the first half. And then at some point, right after halftime, the Heat realized we're the Miami Heat. And we're not good. And then they sucked. And they were just terrible from that point forward. But there was a moment where the game was delayed, and they didn't really say what had happened. They said there was a medical situation on the court, and they didn't say what had happened. And I didn't really pay much attention to it. And then I started getting these messages on my phone. Did you hear what happened? Well, I'm watching the game, and they said some medical situation, but I didn't really see what happened. And so it turns out that comedian Tracy Morgan caused about a 10 to 15 minute delay in an NBA game on Monday night because Tracy Morgan upchucked. He rode the Vomit Comet all over the floor right at midcourt, sitting in that celebrity row at Madison Square Garden. And there is a viral photo. You talk about art in photography. Ansel Adams has nothing on whoever took this photo of the man, the myth, the legend, Tracy Morgan, at the point of explosion when he is leaning over and he's vomiting the stream of yellow goo coming out of the man's mouth. And it was captured right in the act. It's like the Zapruder film. It's unbelievable, the artwork that is in that particular photo. And check it out. Even Blind Scott's impressed by that, and Inca Terror and Blind Emmett. There was so much puke that came out of this guy's stomach. And there was literally the pavement pizza, as some people call it, was all over the place, that it actually splashed and cascaded onto the court. If you can imagine, it was like the great flood of Madison Square Garden. And on the playing floor, the game was halted for several minutes. I estimated 10 to 15 minutes. There were a bunch of people trying to clean it up. But so you had people, it was like a vaudevillian act. You had people trying to clean up the puke. You also had other people trying to attend to Tracy Morgan. And he's in his mid-50s. He vomited so much his nose started bleeding. And he was taken away. And some social media critics are upset that people were having an absolute field day with this particular story. It's not every day that a well-known celebrity delays an NBA game. It just happens to be, I don't know, on St. Patrick's Day where the guy puked all over the court. And so I asked the question, goofing on Tracy Morgan and his reversal of fortune at the Knickerbocker game with the Miami Heat, is that fair or foul? So after a booth review, we have determined it is a fair ball. It is a fair ball. To me, this is not this deep. It's not that deep. Tracy Morgan, last I checked, is a comedian. This is the kind of stuff that Tracy Morgan would tell jokes about. So if you're a comedian and you're sitting there at Celebrity Row and you happen to puke so much that you delayed an NBA game, that is a made-for-comedy situation. And Tracy Morgan, the honorary mayor of Barf City, congratulations. And the old Technicolor yawn right there from Tracy Morgan. And he got his wings. He got his wings. He is in the cockpit of the Vomit Comet and all that stuff. You know, he reminded me of Donovan McNabb in the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles years ago. You remember that name, Donovan McNabb? He famously puked during the Super Bowl. It was a hot day in Jacksonville against the Patriots, and he puked all over the place. So there you go. And I will tell you, coming up, I don't have time to do it right now. Coming up, my favorite part of the story, which not a lot of people are talking about,